I'd like to introduce Naomi from the United States, who takes LDN. Thank you for joining me, Naomi.
Thank you.
Could you tell us for what conditions you take LDN for?
Yes, I take it for interstitial cystitis, lupus, Sjogren's, Hashimoto, and chronic Lyme.
Wow, quite a few there. What came
Yes.
first? Which conditions did you have to start with?
I was initially diagnosed with lupus and Sjogren's and Hashimoto's.
Mm-hmm. And what symptoms did you get with that?
I was having dry eye that progressed to the point where I was having corneal ulcers, arthritis symptoms, and profound fatigue.
Mm-hmm. And what were you given for those conditions?
It took the doctors a long time to discover what was wrong, and I was eventually sent to a rheumatologist who wanted to start me on some things like methotrexate, and at the time I didn't want to take those, so I studied antibiotic protocol therapy and went on doxycycline, which helped me for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm. So when did all the other conditions, your chronic Lyme, when did that come into the mix?
Yes, I went through a rather stressful period in my life, and the lupus and Sjogren's flared badly. I was put on high doses of prednisone for about a year. After that, I started up with interstitial cystitis. I didn't know what was wrong. I felt like I had a terrible bladder infection. They determined it was not a bladder infection and that there wasn't really much they could do for me. With the beginning of the interstitial cystitis, my naturopathic physician told me that she felt I might have Lyme disease also, and tested me for it, and that test came back positive. So that's where that all started, and it just kind of snowballed from there.
Mm-hmm. Can you remember being bitten by a tick?
No, I don't, and I never had the rash.
Okay. So, yeah, with all these things that you had going on, before you found LDN, or before you started to take LDN, at that time, what were your symptoms from all these different conditions?
I had a lot of fatigue, joint pain, brain fog. The worst of it all, though, was the interstitial cystitis. It just felt like a raging bladder infection, and there was nothing that helped. I ended up sitting on a heating pad almost all day. It was pretty miserable.
Mm-hmm. So if you had to score your quality of life on a score of 1 to 10, 10 being the best, what would it have been at that time?
It was probably about a 1 to a 2. It was horrible.
Oh dear. Sounds pretty awful. I used to be plagued with UTIs, and they weren't very nice, but at least they did go eventually.
Yes.
So how did you hear about LDN?
I heard about it from my Facebook groups that were about interstitial cystitis. I got a little bit of information from the other people who were taking it. Mm-hmm. I asked my naturopath about it, and she was able to write a prescription for me, and I started taking it.
And when you first started, did you notice any introductory side effects?
I did. I started at a low dose, 0.5 milligram, and went up 0.5 milligrams at a time. And with interstitial cystitis, there tends to be a little bit of pain, more pain when you first start it and when you up the dose. It wasn't really that bad for me. I noticed a little bit, but it was something I could deal with.
Oh, that's really good. And did you take it at night?
I did.
Mm-hmm. And how long would you say it took before you started to notice improvements?
It was about 10 months.
Quite a while then.
It was, yes, but it was very worth it.
Mhm. So what did you notice to start with as improvement?
As improvement started, the pain started to diminish, and that just gradually became less and less.
What about the fatigue?
The fatigue improved somewhat also.
Mhm. What about your dry eyes with your Sjogren's?
That got better, yes.
And the arthritic type pain?
That got better too, yes.
So after 10 months, when LDN started to work for you, how long did it take before, you could say that most of your symptoms had receded?
I would say it was probably about a year into it
Mhm.
that things were looking much better, yes.
So how long have you now been taking LDN?
It's been between 3 and 4 years. I can't really remember, but at
Mhm.
least 3.
Okay. What symptoms do you have now from all those different conditions?
I still have a bit of fatigue. I think that's probably from the Lyme disease, but the Lyme is getting better. My Lyme tests are showing improvement. I only have IC symptoms if I neglect hydration, and when I have that, it's very, very slight.
Mhm. And on that score of 1 to 10, what would it be now?
I would say an 8 to a 9.
Well, that's truly amazing, isn't it? Really
Yes,
amazing.
it is.
So
Yes.
would you say that you're able to lead a near normal life now?
Oh, yes.
How would you describe your life?
I am able to participate in things that I wasn't able to do before because I was so racked with pain. I can get up and interact with friends. I'm a quilter. I can do my quilting again. It's very much given me back my life.
Wow, that is just truly remarkable, and thank you very much for sharing your story with us.
You're very welcome. I'm happy to be here.